Interview conducted for the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at Nauset Regional High School in Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
For the sake of this interview, please state your full name and community in which you now reside.
I am Martin Miller, and I reside in Sandwich, Massachusetts. And I was born in 1940.
Okay, we're going to start with questions now. When and why did you join the Army?
The reason why I joined the Navy instead of the Army was because I got my draft notice. So when I got my draft notice, I said, I don't want to be on the ground in Vietnam. I don't want to be somebody to be shot at. So when I went down to the recruiter's office and joined the United States Navy to keep from going to Vietnam and to being on the ground. This, just like most people at this time, they didn't want to go, but a lot of people did, and they didn't come back.
Why were you drafted?
Well, I was still young enough that it was time for me to, my number came up, and that's the reason why I was drafted. And also that Vietnam took more men in service than they anticipated.
How long did you serve for?
I served a four-year term. In the Navy, whenever you join, it's a 4-year term. When you're in the Army, it's a 2-year term when they draft you. And so I spent 4 years in service.
How old were you when you joined?
I was 22 years old when I joined the service.
What were your thoughts before you were drafted?
Well, like a lot of fellows at the time I had joined, is that you didn't want to join, you didn't want to be over there, you didn't want to have the problems that they all were having, and a lot of people at that time were what they call draft dodgers, were going up into Canada and avoiding service with their country. But if everybody did that, where would we be today?
How was your family affected by you going into the war?
Well, like most mothers and dads, my folks were concerned that I would take and possibly, get hurt. And you can be hurt just walking down the street at times. So I thought about these things before I joined, and I wanted to do the right thing for my country.
What was it like arriving at the bases?
Whenever I went into service, at the first camp was boot camp, and like all boot camps, you learn the basics, you learn how to work with other men to help you taking. I've lost my place, but that's all right. Whenever I was kind of nervous, like I am right now, a little bit nervous. And whenever you go into boot camp, you don't know really what it's all about and what's going to happen until you get there and you spend a little time. Then you understand why some people are and do anticipate and wonder why they're into doing this. And after as long as I kept each and every day, and I found out that I was working for Uncle Sam, and learning how to become a soldier, but not a soldier, but a person in the Navy. And after I'd got through boot camp, they asked me where I wanted to go. Yeah, I said I want to go to AQ school. AQ school is a technician's school for aircraft, which handled and this. I got my thoughts all messed up. But anyway, what's the next question there?
How was the ship different from the U.S., like in Vietnam?
Aboard ship, you didn't have the worries about being hurt, being shot, but you could always be hurt because some of the jobs were dangerous that were in the service. But then you taking the difference between being on land and being in the ocean is that at this particular time, all the action was on shore. It wasn't out to sea or out there with the military like it was back in the Second World War. And that's one reason why I chose to be in the Navy, because it helped me feel a lot better, and I wasn't as afraid. Because if you're in the Army and that, you always have a bigger tendency to be shot or hurt or be blown up, as they're doing right now over in Iraq, and that they're having landmines and stuff that didn't happen out in the ocean with ships. And the ship I was on off the coast of Vietnam was the Constellation.
How was a daily life, and how was your reaction with the crew on the ship?
The daily routine was what each and every soldier, each and everybody in the Navy, or when you go through boot camp, you have a routine that you always follow, and this is what the service is all about. It has a routine and things it does with each and every one, and you learn to follow these routines, and it helps you become a better person to get into a habit of working, and to help people understand what the routine.
Okay.
That's okay. You have videotapes.
For your routine, what was it? When did you get up?
No, my routine was I got up at my regular routine was I'd be up at 6, do exercises, and then after an hour or so, and then you have breakfast, and to the regular job by 8 o'clock. Then after, just like a regular routine of work today, whenever you go into work from 8 to 5, and an hour break for lunch, then you take them back again at 6 o'clock. You have your evening meal, and after the evening meal, you had your time to yourself to write letters home, to take and be able to be with different ones in the crew that you were with in your regular shop, and to talk over what happened that day, and to go into knowing what mistakes you made, and to help correct those mistakes, and to be a better person in your shop and in your field, to be a better person in that squadron that you were with.
What was your job?
I was a fire control technician, and in air squadron. My air squadron was VAH 6, and that's just one of the many squadrons that were aboard the aircraft carrier. And there was nine squadrons that were on board the ship, plus all the others that came aboard. And there's somewhere around 5,000 men on board the ship and aircraft carrier. And with the squadrons, they were all had to be working as a well-oiled machine to get all their work done, that they can do what they need to be done for each and every day. And this is why we went to boot camp, to help learn what we were to do, and to help our country and help do the job we were assigned to do.
What type of equipment did you use, and what did your uniform look like?
The type of equipment we used was oscilloscopes, voltometers, and also specialized electronic equipment, and use computers that they can maintain and help repair the aircraft that came back in that were damaged, or that were something had gone wrong. Because when an aircraft launches from a ship, and especially the aircraft carriers, you go from 0 miles per hour to over 160 miles an hour within 100 and some feet. And when you get that kind of a shock and get the equipment jammed, sometimes it doesn't hold up as well. And that's why you have to constantly keep checking it, before each flight. You go out on deck, you hook up the aircraft, you help rerun the aircraft and taking sure it's working, so that they don't have to worry about the last minute everything was working. So you have a good qualified crew working on an aircraft, and they can help in many ways like that.
Can you please elaborate on what the equipment was like and what was its job?
The specialized equipment that we used was for the different navigation system, the radar. That's the two systems that I worked on, and there were several other systems within the aircraft that everybody had to take and work on and make sure everything worked well. Especially the navigation system, that whenever you went to automatic pilot, they would take it to you to your point of interest and bring you back from that point to your ship. And the ships all circled whenever they got within a short range before they dropped wherever everybody went off. And usually from the time they started launches till they quit, wasn't a very long time at all, because they wanted to know their be over and back in a short time. And your other part of that question was what?
What did your uniform look like?
Oh, my uniform was dungarees, which is had a flight sweater on, and dungarees, which helped identify each group, like you see right now over on movies and stuff. They show off of a carrier. Well, the carriers each group has a color coordinated group, and if certain things happen within each of those color coordinated groups, to let them know what's taking place, where the aircraft is at, and what its main specific body of function is, so that they know that when the aircraft is off and ready to go, that everybody gives the thumbs up signal. And the pilot, when they're in there and they're turning up their aircraft, they know what's expected of each function, and and the pilot of the aircraft will be looking down right at his plane captain, and the plane captain will give him a thumbs up whenever each and every one of us has completed our jobs. We give him a thumbs up also, and whenever we do that, that gives them a confident feeling that this plane is going to launch and we're going to get there and we're going to get back.
How did the military affect your life?
Well, the military helped me when I became a civilian, as the work ethic, the responsibility, the ability to take and do my job where I was at as well as I could be expected, because they always expected of me, and that way I knew where I'd take and go and be able to handle the job that I was required to do in civilian life.
What was your proudest or happiest memory?
I guess the happiest memory was whenever I had left the service and I'd come home from the Navy. I saw my son. He was just already 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Yeah, I wish it was 4 minutes. He was. This is whenever Rytek had 4 months after he was born, I saw him for the first time. And whenever Rytek had got my notice that my chief had told me, he says, "You are a father of a son." So that was my proudest moment. And whenever, and I wouldn't trade it for anything for what I've done. So.
What was your darkest memory?
I think the darkest moment was whenever we'd taken an aircraft came in for a landing, and we're standing along the catwalks along the edge of the aircraft deck. That this aircraft didn't catch its last wire like it should, and it slammed into the conning tower and blew up. And the fuel that was still he had in his tanks just sprayed all over the deck and caught other aircraft on fire. And the bombs that were already hadn't been offloaded or dropped, some of them exploded, and this brought a time of real worry. That was about the darkest I ever taken have to help out with putting out the fires that it created.
Was the ship affected greatly by that explosion?
No, because I thought it was affected greatly, but they had within a matter of hours, they pushed all the planes off. They had that were on fire, and they cleaned up the deck. They resurfaced and got it going within just a matter of about 4 hours. You know, it looks worse than it is, but it wasn't as bad as they thought. So, and somebody like myself who hadn't been in that kind of a situation, you know, thought that was really the darkest time.
When you hear Vietnam, what do you think of?
Before I went into service, if somebody told me I'd be off the coast of Vietnam, I'd say, really, that's not a good thing, because they're taking worried about the people that are on the land and the ones that are getting shot at, the ones that have more problems with the communists that came and come at them and hurt them. And say that question again, please.
When you hear Vietnam, what do you think of?
Just like the soldiers of today, they don't want to go, but they go because they are trying to help their country and to make it safer for everybody here.
If I came to you and said I was thinking about joining the military, what advice would you give me?
Joining the military is if we weren't at war. Any of the branches of service would be great. But looking at it since I've been over there, I think that the Navy would be the least one that you'd have problems with, because you get more training and more education to the services through the Navy, and you can get a world experience, and you'd be able to go around the world as a part of your education.
Where else did you go besides Vietnam?
My first 2 years of service was whenever after boot camp, I went to A school. After I went through A school, I went to my squadron, which was stationed in Washington State, and it's off the coast there in Whidbey Island, Washington. It was a Naval Air Station. And I stayed there for 4 months. Then after 4 months, went to our first duty station, which was over in the Mediterranean. But we flew from the Whidbey Island, Washington to Norfolk, Virginia. From Norfolk, Virginia, they traveled onto the ship, the USS Forrestal. And after we'd went on, we spent several months, well, about a year, from the time we left till the time we got back, over in not Vietnam, but over in the Mediterranean. And while we were in the Mediterranean, we played war games, and the communist, or the USSR, was right there with us whenever we were taking, and we had several times that they would try to interfere with our time of doing whatever we were assigned to do, and that's one thing that we're here to do, is to guard this country and to guide it and to help it.
When you came back, how did you feel?
I felt relieved. And I felt very proud that I could say that I was a member of the military service that can help guard this country and to help it. And thank you, ladies, for helping me to relive some of the times I had in the service, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
How did the military affect you after you came back?
It helped with me whenever I got my first job, knowing that I'm repeating myself on this, but it did help me when I got back, that I could do my job and do it well, and to be proud that I was doing what I was doing.
What was your job when you came back?
When I came back, I had several jobs, but the first job I had, and which lasted for several months, was I worked for Uniroyal Tire Company, and I was a tire line supervisor, and I helped making tires, which we all ride on today.
When you see what's happening now with ISIS, how do you react to that? And how does it make you feel?
I feel sorry for the men that are on the ground and that they're what they're up against and all that they go through. They need everybody's support and everybody's hand to take and keep going, and to take because right now we're coming up against one of the worst threats that even the world has seen so far. And we need to take and be so aware of what it can do and not take it so casually, but to take and think, what if they were standing next to me?
Do you think that there's a lot more technology than there was back then with the ships and everything?
Oh yes, there's a lot more technology. The aircraft that they have nowadays is so much more highly advanced. Even the helicopters and the manner in which the ships that are aboard, that are floating out there in the water, and the Army, Navy, and the military all have Air Force have so much more, and to give so much more, they give you more education. And you need to use this education that they're giving you instead of saying, oh, so many times a lot of people think they're being smart alecky and not helping themselves. But whenever you learn, all you can learn about computers and all of what it can do for you, not what you can run away from and make fun of, but what it can do for you. It'll help you out. It'll help you for your next job, and because the majority of the educational programs, it should be around computers.
When did you move to Cape Cod and why?
3 years ago, I moved to Cape Cod. Excuse me, I was corrected. 4 years ago, somebody held up some fingers. And the reason that I came to Cape Cod is because my son lives out here, and 2 beautiful granddaughters. Oh, and one of them is interviewing me right now.
Did you get to go to college?
I took a few courses in going into college. I did not complete college. I just, my forte was not in college. It was just working like an average Joe. And
Thank you for your service.
oh, thank you. Thank you, ladies. And thank you for being so thoughtful and helpful.